Okay, the pancreas is an organ that produces chemicals, enzymes in particular, to digest food. It's an organ that is found behind the peritoneum, therefore is considered retroperitoneal organ. You have here a sinus and the tubes, the ducts that are used in order to secrete the contents. If we scroll down, we'll take a look at the anatomy of the pancreas. The pancreas consists of a tail, this part, the body, and the head. In addition to that, it has a main pancreatic duct, this one right here, and the accessory pancreatic duct. Job of the pancreas, one of the jobs of the pancreas is produce enzymes to digest food. Another job is the production of hormones such as insulin. But that's something we're going to see in the endocrine system. So if we scroll down, we can see again the hormones that are going to be, the enzymes that are going to be produced by the pancreas. Before we look at the enzymes the pancreas is going to release, what stimulates the secretion of these enzymes is acetylcholine, cholecystokinin, and secretin. Acetylcholine and cholecystokinin are going to stimulate the secretion of enzymes from the pancreas. Secretin stimulates the production of bicarbonate. As you know, the food that gets into the duodenum is going to come from the stomach. So the stomach is more or less around here, around this area. It releases the food with acid, and it goes into this area right here of the duodenum. The bicarbonate secreted by the pancreas is going to help neutralize the acidity in mix with the food. So we keep scrolling down, we get to the table where you have the enzymes that are going to digest the food. You have to understand that the main digestion of the nutrients is going to be done by the enzymes produced by the pancreas. Therefore, all the nutrients, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids are going to be digested by these enzymes. Therefore, there's going to be a specific enzymes for every single of these nutrients. So if we keep scrolling down, I would strongly recommend you to read and learn this table. Scrolling down, that's it. The next topic in this chapter is the small intestine. Let's take a look at the anatomy of it. So the small intestine consists of three different areas. The first part is the duodenum, which is the continuation of the stomach, jejunum, and ileum. The last part of the ileum is the one that connects with the large intestine at the level of the ileocecal valve. So if we keep scrolling down, right here you have the duodenum. The duodenum is the first part of the small intestine, and it's not that long. It's approximately, on average, I would say 15 centimeters. Then you have the jejunum. Jejunum is the middle part, again, and this one is approximately 1.5 meters. The ileum is the last part, and this is longer than the other three, and then the other two, and it's on average 2.5 meters. It contains also the Peyer's patches, and as you can see right here. The end of the ileum is the one that connects with the large intestine at the level of the ileocecal valve. If we cut the small intestine and we put a microscope, we can see that it has very important characteristics. Main job of the small intestine is to digest, final digestion of food, and absorption. The absorption is possible due to the fact that there are three main characteristics that the small intestine is going to have. One of them is the circular folds, the other one is villi, and the last one is going to be microvilli. These three characteristics allow the small intestine to absorb the food because it increases the area of absorption. Right here you can see some villi, the microvilli, the villi being magnified. So you can see here how these type of projections are going to increase the area of absorption. And each one of these villi is going to have inside, in this case you can see that in there, it's going to have an arterial, venule, and a lymphatic vessel. In this case, the lymphatic vessel are going to be called lacteals. Around the villi, we're going to have the microvilli. Okay, the microvilli is going to form something called a brush border, as you can see right here. Okay, microvilli, yeah, and it forms a brush border. This brush border is very important because it's going to have enzymes that are going to help us with the final digestion of food. In addition to that, we also have glands. There are two main kinds of glands. The glands of Lieberkühn, which is this one, and Brunner glands, this one's right here, Levercum and Brunner glands. The glands of Levercum are located usually at the base of the villi, and in there you're going to have at the bottom of these glands you're going to have Paneth cells. The Paneth cells are mainly responsible for the production of some enzymes such as lysozyme. The Brunner glands are located mainly in the duodenum, and the main job of them is to produce bicarbonate. The reason for that is because, remember, the duodenum is the area that receives the food that contains a lot of acid. Therefore, we need the bicarbonate to neutralize that acid. So the secretion of these glands is approximately 1.5 liters to 2 liters per day, more or less, and that's considered the intestinal use. So we keep scrolling down. Well, right here you see intestinal secretion. It says 1 to 2 liters intestinal use. Okay, intestinal motility. There are two main types of movements at the level of the intestines. One of them is segmentation, which is basically this one right here. It moves back and forth, 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 in order to allow time for the intestines not only to digest but also to reabsorb the food. To absorb the food. And the next one is going to be peristalsis. This is a different kind of movement. In this case, peristalsis is going to, the purpose of it is going to be to push the food or the remainders of the food and the nutrients down the intestines so they can reach the large intestine. The ileocecal valve at the end of the small intestine and the beginning of the large intestine is usually closed. But when the food reaches the stomach, it stimulates the secretion of gastrin as well as the ileocecal reflex. And these two activities are going to relax the ileocecal valve. So when the remainings of the absorption reach the large intestine, they can be dumped into the cecum. So the remainings of the food can enter the large intestine. So we can scrolling down. Here it says the peristaltic movements. Right here you have ileocecal valve is closed, the gastrin and gastroileal reflex. Okay, that's about it for this part. The next item is chemical digestion and absorption. Just a few words about it, since this falls mainly under nutrition. Again, the main nutrients that we have are going to be carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And the enzymes produced specifically by the pancreas are the ones that are going to help us digest with the final digestion of these nutrients. Remember, but the initial digestion many times is done by salivary enzymes as well as the enzymes that you have, enzymes and acid that you have in the stomach. As you can see here, carbohydrates. Just a few words about it. The main carbohydrate that we get is starch, and the starch gets digested into smaller carbohydrates, and at the end it's going to turn into glucose, which is the main carbohydrate that is going to be absorbed. So not much about it. So we go here. And you see right here, they're digested by the enzymes and glucose. So that's the main thing for carbohydrates. Then, not much about this. Next thing is proteins. Again, is mainly digested by the enzymes produced by your pancreas, but initial digestion of these, for example, happens at the level of your stomach with the production of pepsinogen. And what you get, obviously, very, very small amino acids, because remember, the building blocks of proteins are going to be amino acids. So you digest, you eat protein, and it goes through a series of enzymatic digestion and mechanical digestion as well, and you're going to end up with amino acids. Next one that we have, lipids. Main thing about lipids, remember, they cannot be absorbed directly into bloodstream. Therefore, they need to be absorbed through the lacteals, which is part of the lymphatic system. In order to digest, we're going to have enzymes as well as bile, right? And the enzymes are going to initiate this at the level of the stomach. But then the main organ that is going to help us digest is going to be the enzymes coming from the pancreas. Again, I think that's one of the main concepts. Maybe looking at this table is going to give you a better idea. Again, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And don't forget that we also have nucleic acids, and they are going to be digested mainly by the enzymes of your pancreas. Again, take a look at this figure and maybe give you a better idea how these different nutrients are going to be processed in the level of your intestines. And the main thing, again, at the level of your intestines as well as the other areas in your digestive system. The main thing here to remember is that fats are not absorbed directly into your bloodstream. That's why at the very end right here is a circulation. Yes, this is in your blood, carbohydrates and proteins, but remember that fats don't go there directly, they go into the lacteals. Okay, that's about it for this. The next topic is the large intestine. Let's take a look at the anatomy. We have in here the large intestine. Intestines, ascending, transverse, and descending. Then also you have the rectum, the cecum, the appendix, and the anus at the bottom. Okay, and in the middle you have the mesenteries. The mesenteries allow the intestines to move, but not completely free, not freely anywhere they want, but rather just to move in this particular area. So therefore, they don't allow the intestines to move, completely away from the position that they occupy. The muscle in your large intestine is going to form this structure right here, called the tinea coli. Right here, the tinea coli. When this contracts, it produces these protrusions right here, or these balloons, and they're called hausтрums. Okay, colon is considered the cecum, the rectum, and the anal canal. The appendix has a lot of lymphatic tissues. Right here you have the ileocecal valve, which is the connection between the last part of your small intestine and your large intestine. The mesenteries also houses the superior and inferior mesenteric arteries. If we keep scrolling down, right here you can see the rectum and the anus. You can scroll down and we already talk about the cecum, the appendix. Colon, as I said, is basically all the intestine except the cecum, rectum, and anal canal, as you can see here. And we keep scrolling down. We talk about transverse colon, ascending, descending, sigmoid. I already mentioned that. Tinea coli and haustrum as well. You know, haustrums are the protrusions or the balloons that I showed you before in the figure. We keep scrolling down. We get to the microscopic anatomy. Right here, when you look at the large intestine, you're going to see mainly that there are glands in there, and these glands are going to produce mucus. Mucus is the main secretion that you're going to have at the level of the large intestine. Next item is intestinal microorganisms. So we have many different microorganisms that they live in our large intestine, but we get some benefit out of that as well because they're going to produce enzymes that are going to help us digest nutrients that we otherwise wouldn't be able to get. And also they help us with some production of vitamin B as well as vitamin K. Unfortunately, they also produce gas. Right? And this gas is mainly carbon, hydrogen sulfide is the one that produces the characteristic odor that they have. We keep scrolling down, we see absorption. The main absorption by the large intestine is going to be water and electrolytes. And after that, we're going to end up with feces. Feces are basically 75 to 80% of water, and the rest are just solids that are going to be a composition of bacteria as well as fibers that we not digest. The remaining feces are pushed into the rectum and anal canal. Defecation happens basically by two kinds of reflexes. One of them is the intrinsic defecation reflex, and the other one is going to be the parasympathetic defecation reflex. The intrinsic is going to stimulate the relaxation of the internal anal sphincter. If you scroll down, when we look at this figure right here, you're going to see that the internal defecation reflex relaxes the internal sphincter, and the parasympathetic reflex relaxes the external anal sphincter, allowing the feces to come out. That's it.